The dangerous lie we tell about success. Good afternoon. I want to start today by introducing you to someone whose work has moved mountains, someone who has spent their life dismantling the barriers that keep Black women invisible, unheard, and underestimated. Rita Roberson is not just a leader, Rita Roberson is a force of nature. They are a voice for the silenced, a bridge for the overlooked, and a living reminder that the assumptions we make about people, especially Black women, are not just wrong, they are dangerous. Their impact on making the world a better place is undeniable. And today I want to share with you insights from our conversation that will challenge everything you think you know about success, struggle, and the faces you see every day. So let me ask you something. When you look at someone, what do you see? Do you see their car, their clothes, their confidence? Do you see the polished exterior and assume everything underneath is just as put together? We do this all the time, don't we? We make snap judgments. We assess people in seconds. We decide who they are, what they need, what they deserve, and we move on, convinced we know their story. But what if I told you that the woman in the Gucci bag driving the Volvo, sitting across from you in that boardroom or that coffee shop, is one decision, one disaster, one betrayal away from losing everything? What if I told you that the very markers we use to judge success, wealth, appearance, status are the same markers that prevent people from getting the help they desperately need? Rita Robertson shared something with me that stopped me in my tracks. They told me about a moment when they were turned away from a housing program, not because they didn't qualify, not because there wasn't space, but because they drove a Volvo and wore Gucci. The people running the program looked at them and decided in an instant that they were too advanced, that they didn't need help, that their appearance disqualified them from assistance. And so they asked them to leave in a state where they knew no one, with nowhere to go. Let that sink in for a moment. This is not an isolated incident. This is a reflection of a deeper, more insidious problem. We have built a world where we judge people's needs by their appearances, where we assume that if someone looks successful, they must be fine, where we equate material possessions with emotional, financial, and social stability. And in doing so, we deny help to the very people who need it most. Now, let me be clear, this is not just about one person's experience. This is about a pattern that affects Black women disproportionately, a pattern that says, if you look strong, you must be strong. If you look put together, you must have it all together. If you look like you're thriving, you must not be surviving. But here's the truth: strength is not the absence of struggle, success is not the absence of pain. And appearances are often the most carefully constructed lies we tell the world. Let me tell you about Melissa Butler. Melissa Butler founded the Lip Bar, a vegan beauty brand that is now sold in Target and Walmart. But before she was celebrated, before she was successful, she was ridiculed. She went on Shark Tank, stood in front of a panel of investors, and pitched her vision for inclusive beauty products. And do you know what happened? They laughed at her. They dismissed her. They told her in no uncertain terms that her idea wasn't worth their time or their money. Melissa Butler is a Black woman, and the investors, consciously or not, judged her not just on her business plan, but on their assumptions about who she was, what she was capable of, and whether she belonged in their world. They saw her and they decided she wasn't enough. But Melissa didn't stop. She went home. She kept making lipsticks in her kitchen, and she built a community. She shared her story, her struggles, her rejections, and in doing so, she connected with thousands of women who had been told the same thing: that they weren't enough, that their dreams were too big, that their voices didn't matter. Melissa Butler started her business because she looked around the beauty industry and saw a glaring absence. She saw shelves filled with products that weren't made for her, that didn't celebrate her, that didn't even see her. And so she decided to create what was missing. She made lipsticks by hand in her own kitchen with ingredients she believed in for women who had been ignored for far too long. And today, the Lip Bar is a multi-million dollar business, not because Melissa Butler changed who she was, but because she refused to let other people's judgments define her worth. She refused to shrink, she refused to disappear, and she used her authentic story, her pain, her rejection as fuel to build something that would empower others. Now let's talk about Morgan DeBaun. Morgan DeBaun founded Blavity, a media company that has become one of the leading voices for Black millennials in America. But Morgan didn't start with funding, they didn't start with connections, and they didn't start with people believing in their vision. They started with a laptop and a belief that Black voices deserved a platform that wasn't filtered, watered down, or controlled by people who didn't understand their experiences. Morgan faced the same skepticism that Melissa faced. Investors looked at them and saw risk. They saw a young Black woman with an idea that didn't fit their models, their expectations, their comfort zones. And so they passed again and again and again. But Morgan kept building. They built Blavity into a community, a movement, a space where Black creators, entrepreneurs, and professionals could tell their own stories on their own terms. Morgan understood something that the investors didn't. They understood that there was a hunger, a deep unmet need for authentic Black voices in media. They understood that people were tired of being talked about instead of being heard. And they built a platform that centered those voices, that amplified those stories, that refused to apologize for taking up space. And today, Blavity hosts Afrotech, one of the largest conferences for Black professionals in tech. They have partnerships with some of the biggest brands in the world. And they have created a space where Black innovation, Black leadership, and Black excellence are not just acknowledged, they are celebrated. Morgan DeBaun succeeded not because people stopped judging them, but because they stopped waiting for approval. They stopped waiting for permission. And they started building the world they wanted to see. And then there's Jewel Burke Solomon. Jewel founded PartPick, a visual search tool for replacement parts. If that sounds technical, that's because it is. Jewel built advanced technology in an industry dominated by men. And not just men, but men who were used to being the smartest people in the room. And when Jewel walked into those rooms, they didn't see a tech founder, they saw a Black woman, and they assumed she didn't belong. Jewel's journey started in the parts distribution industry. She saw a problem that no one else was paying attention to. She saw people struggling to find the right replacement parts, wasting time, wasting money, because the search tools available were outdated and ineffective. And she thought there has to be a better way. So she built it, but building the technology was only part of the challenge. The bigger challenge was convincing people to take her seriously. Jewel faced bias at every turn. Investors doubted her technical abilities. Colleagues questioned her leadership. She was underestimated, dismissed, and overlooked, not because her product wasn't good, but because people couldn't see past their assumptions about who she was. And yet she persisted. She built a team. She refined her product. She told her story, not to prove herself to the doubters, but to connect with the people who believed in her vision. And in the end, Amazon acquired Part Pick. Jewel Burke Solomon became one of the few Black women to successfully exit a tech startup. And today, she is a leading advocate for diversity in tech, using her platform to open doors for others who have been judged, dismissed, and underestimated. So, what do Melissa Morgan and Jewel have in common? They were all judged by their appearances, they were all underestimated, they were all told in one way or another that they didn't belong. And they all chose to share their authentic stories, their struggles, their setbacks, and their survival strategies as a way to build trust, forge connections, and empower others. This is the power of authenticity. This is the power of transparency. When you share your real story, when you let people see the cracks, the scars, the moments when you almost gave up, you do two things. First, you give yourself permission to be human. And second, you give others permission to do the same. But here's the thing: authenticity is not just about sharing your story, it's about recognizing that everyone around you has a story too. A story you don't know, a story you can't see, a story that might be unfolding in ways that would shock you if you knew the truth. Rita Roberson's experience at that housing program is a perfect example. The people who turned them away didn't know their story. They didn't know what they had survived, what they had lost, or what they were facing. They looked at the Volvo and the Gucci bag and they made a judgment. And that judgment, that split second decision, had real consequences. It left them without help, without support, in a place where they had no one. Now, imagine if they had asked. Imagine if they had paused just for a moment and said, "Tell me your story." What would they have learned? What would have changed? This is the shift we need to make. We need to stop judging books by their covers. We need to stop assuming that people who look successful don't need help. We need to stop equating appearance with reality, because the truth is your circumstances can change in an instant. One job loss, one medical emergency, one betrayal, one disaster, and everything you thought was stable can crumble. And when that happens, you need people to see you, not the version of you that you present to the world, but the real you, the you that is struggling, scared, and in need of support. Rita Robertson's work is a testament to this truth. They have spent their life advocating for Black women, creating spaces where they can be seen, heard, and supported, not in spite of their struggles, but because of them. They understand that strength is not about pretending everything is fine. Strength is about showing up, being honest, and asking for help when you need it. And that is the lesson I want to leave you with today. Never judge a book by its cover. Everyone's journey is layered with unseen struggles and resilience. Authenticity and transparency about your struggles can transform adversity into empowerment, and your circumstances can change in an instant. So extend empathy and support to others, regardless of how they appear. So here's my challenge to you: not next month, not next week, today, right now. I want you to think of one person in your life, someone you see regularly, someone who seems like they have it all together. And I want you to reach out to them. Ask them how they're really doing, not the polite surface level question, the real question, the one that says, "I see you, I'm here, and I care." Because the truth is, we are all one moment away from needing that same grace. We are all carrying something. And the only way we make it through is together, with compassion, with understanding, and with the courage to see beyond appearances. Stop assuming, start asking, stop judging, start supporting, because the person you help today might be the person who changes the world tomorrow. And the grace you extend might be the very thing that saves a life. What will you do differently today?